Happy Global Degrowth Day. I'm Dee. In previous videos, I told you what degrowth is, that it's not doom or collapse. Today we go deeper, where this idea actually came from, what the evidence really says, and the part that matters most, what we can each do, starting now. Because here's what most people don't realize. Degrowth isn't some trendy new slogan. It's a warning that serious economists and scientists raised more than 50 years ago. So let's start there. To understand degrowth, you have to understand the number it argues with. GDP, Gross Domestic Product. The total value of everything a country produces and sells. Here's the bit nobody really talks about. GDP was invented in the 1930s by an economist named Simon Kuznets to help governments measure their way out of the Great Depression. And Kuznets himself gave us a warning. He wrote that, and I'm only lightly paraphrasing, the welfare of a nation can scarcely be inferred from a measure of national income. What this really means is, please don't mistake this for happiness. Here's how GDP actually thinks. A forest? Worthless, until you chop it down and sell the timber. An oil spill? Look at all the money we're spending to clean it up. GDP is the only accountant alive who'd look at a hurricane and a hospital bill and write, strong quarter. And the unpaid work that genuinely holds society together, raising kids, caring for elders, it counts that as generally zero. We built an entire civilization around a number its own inventor basically shipped with a warning label. Then came 1972. A team of MIT scientists published The Limits to Growth, one of the most argued about reports of the century. Using one of the first big computer models, they asked a simple question. What happens if population, consumption, and pollution all keep growing on a finite planet? The answer was not a fun bedtime story. Without change, the systems overshoot and then decline, somewhere in the 21st century. Critics called it doom-mongering, but decades later, researchers checked the model against what actually happened. And the uncomfortable punchline? We've been tracking the gloomy scenario almost on schedule. Around the same time, a quiet revolution was brewing in economics. Nicholas Georgescu-Roegen pointed out that the economy obeys physics. Energy and materials degrade. E.F. Schumacher wrote, "Small is beautiful," arguing for economics as if people mattered. Which, when you say it out loud, is a slightly worrying thing to have to argue for. Herman Daly imagined a steady-state economy, one that stops growing in size but keeps getting better. And French thinkers gave the movement its name, décroissance, degrowth. These weren't fringe cranks shouting at clouds. These were some of the sharpest minds of their generation, all saying the same thing. Infinite growth on a finite planet isn't a strategy, it's a countdown. So that was the warning. Here's where we actually are. And this is the part where it stops being philosophy and becomes physics. Scientists have mapped 9 planetary boundaries, the safe operating limits for life on Earth. Climate, biodiversity, freshwater, land, the nitrogen and phosphorus cycles. As of today, we have already crossed 7 of the 9. We are, technically speaking, living outside the lines. Here's a simpler way to feel it. It's called Earth Overshoot Day, the date each year when humanity has used up everything the planet can regenerate in 12 months. This year, that day lands on the 30th of July, which means for over 5 months we're running the planet on credit. We are the housemate who finishes everyone's groceries by July, and then looks genuinely surprised the fridge is empty. Right now, we're using nature about 80% faster than it can recover. Roughly 1.8 Earth's worth. And if everyone on the planet lived like the average American, you'd need about 5 Earths. Now, the standard comeback is, sure, but growth makes life better. And for a long stretch, it genuinely did, lifting people out of poverty, longer lives, less hunger. That's real, and it matters, and degrowth doesn't pretend otherwise. But here's what the data shows in already rich countries. Past a certain point, more GDP basically stops buying you more well-being. We keep producing more, and somehow we're more anxious, more burnt out, more in debt, and lonelier than ever. Turns out you cannot, in fact, shop your way to a good night's sleep. And the bill isn't split evenly. Just 100 fossil fuel producers are linked to about 71% of the world's industrial emissions since 1988. And the richest 10% of humanity is responsible for around half of all consumption emissions, while the poorest half of the planet produces only about a tenth. So when we say degrowth, We are not asking a nurse on a tight budget to give up her holiday. We're asking the system, and the people consuming 3 planets each, to change. Okay, fair question. Can't we just keep growing, but cleanly? Solar, wind, electric everything? Green growth. Honestly, I wish I could give you a thumbs up here. The hope rests on something called decoupling, growing the economy while shrinking its footprint. And we've managed it a little, in a few places. But absolute decoupling, of total resource use, everywhere, fast enough to matter? Every serious review keeps coming back with the same verdict. There's no evidence it's actually happening at the scale and speed we need. And every wind turbine, every battery, every solar panel still needs minerals, mining, land, and energy to build. Clean energy is essential. We should be building it as fast as humanly possible. But if total demand keeps climbing forever, we're just sprinting up a down escalator and wondering why we're not getting anywhere. Degrowth's answer is the boring, sensible one. Build the clean stuff and bring overall demand down to something the planet can carry. Both. Not a heroic bet on only one. So, solutions. And here's the genuinely good news. We are not starting from a blank page. The scaffolding already exists. At the city level, it looks like the donut, economist Kate Raworth's model, which Amsterdam officially adopted back in 2020. Meet everyone's basic needs, without blowing past the planet's limits. It looks like well-being economies. Scotland, Iceland, New Zealand, Wales, and Finland have formed an actual club of governments that measure success by health, nature, and fairness, not just GDP. It looks like the 4-day week. In the UK's big 2022 trial, a year later, about 89% of the companies had kept it, because people were just as productive and 71% of them were less burnt out. Turns out nobody actually enjoyed spending Friday afternoon pretending to look busy. Degrowth looks like universal basic services and right-to-repair laws. So a smaller economy still means a richer life. Healthcare, education, transport, and a phone you're allowed to fix yourself. This isn't utopian fan fiction. It's policy. Some of it is already law. The job now is to scale it. But policy doesn't move on its own. So what can you do today? 5 things. 1. Buy less, buy better. Refuse the upgrade you don't need. Choose things built to last. Every purchase you don't make is a tiny, satisfying no to the throwaway machine. 2. Repair, reuse, share. Fix it before you bin it. Borrow the drill. Let's be honest. The average drill is used for about 13 minutes in its entire life. Join a library of things, a repair cafe, a tool share. Access over ownership. 3. Reclaim your time. Degrowth's real promise isn't less, it's time. For rest, for people, for the stuff that doesn't cost the earth. Guard it like it matters, because it does. 4. Change the conversation. Most people still think degrowth means going backwards. You know it doesn't. Be the friend who reframes it, ideally before dessert. 5. And this is the big one. Organize. Individual choices matter, but systems change when people move together. Back the policies. Support local alternatives. Vote for it. Build it with your neighbors. You are not just a consumer or a wallet with legs. You're a citizen and a designer of whatever comes next. 50 years ago, we were warned. Now we've got the history, we've got the data, and we've got the solutions. The only thing left to choose is whether we design this future on purpose or get a much worse one designed for us by default. Because the opposite of more was never less. It's enough. And enough done by design might just be the best life we've ever had the chance to build. If you want to go deeper, visit our website. At Degrowth by Design, you can talk to Grove and her team of specialists and dig into any corner of this you're curious about. So, start where you are, question more, choose enough, and let's build a world that thrives by design, not by default. Happy Global Degrowth Day! I'm Dee. I'll see you in the next one.